right, we're now going to talk about painting your exterior of your building or your common areas because it's something that I actually am a big fan of. And again, Portside Apartments in Melbourne won at the National Awards because they, in fact, had done exactly that. And it's amazing how an exterior paint job can actually make a big difference to the presentation of your building. And certainly if you actually then put some kind of waterproofing element into that paint, it certainly can make sure that your building lasts another 10 years looking pristine. We've got two people today who are joining us, Matt from Wattyl and Anthony from Premier Painting. And I think, Anthony, you're starting first. Do you want to join us on the screen?
Well, can you hear me?
We can. Hi, Anthony.
Lovely. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for the introduction, Sam.
My
My name's Tony
pleasure.
Conway, Premier Painting Company, and we put this little presentation together a while back, specifically for owners corporations, just to try and give them a bit more clarity in procuring the right tradesman for their project. And you can use this across the board, not just for painting, for any major project, really.
Mm.
So we just go through a few outcomes to start with, what we get out of the webinar, hopefully. Basically, to get a good understanding of your painting project objectives, an understanding of the meaning of scope of works and product specification, an understanding of who to engage to obtain a scope of works and product specification, how to choose the right painting company, the importance of quality assurance, the role of a colour consultant, and getting your compliance now. So we start off with your reasons for painting, which is probably the most important. We go on to who to call to get a scope of works. We go on to the role of consultant throughout, and how to source a reputable painting company, what to look out for when sourcing, what to avoid and be wary of, compliance and onboarding, and quality assurance and technical consulting. We get straight into the first one, the main one really, I think, is your reasons for painting. When you've got a committee, you've got several people with different agendas sometimes and different knowledge levels. So it's best to get a meeting and just have this discussion of why you want the building painted. Is it just to refresh the colour scheme and make a change? Do you need repairs or general maintenance? Do you want a complete update with renovations? You need protection, mostly weather protection from membranes, etc. Or do you just need an annual maintenance program? These are all good reasons, and you need to nail that first with your committee to find out what you want to present to whoever's going to come and quote and tender on your project, so you're all reading off the same page.
Because
Start with scope of work.
undeniably,
Sorry,
Anthony,
Sam.
that's right, darling. Undeniably, when you're going to repaint, you actually have to have someone come in and patch up all the cracks, right?
Yeah,
And sometimes while you're patching up all the cracks, you could see something a bit worse than you might have thought,
exactly.
right? And of
Exactly
course,
right.
and you've got to get the scaffolding in, and of course, usually that's a very large part of the cost associated with it. So, you want to make sure that you're actually going to hit it once and do it right, rather than having to go back again and do patch ups, right?
Exactly. And it's quite intrusive. Scaffolding can be intrusive to the day-to-day life of someone in a strata building.
Bit like
Um,
window cleaning. Someone can be standing outside your balcony.
yes, yeah, exactly.
Don't walk around naked. That's my tip.
Exactly. Okay, we go on to scope of work. So a scope of works is exactly which areas and surfaces require painting. You'd be amazed when we go to some buildings and someone's there saying, yeah, we need this painting, that painting. And you talk to someone else or someone else joins and you go, well, what about this? What about that? How about this? So really, you need to get on the right page when you're getting several quotes of everyone quoting, all the contractors quoting on the same scope of work. Are we
Correct.
doing the balcony balustrade? Are we doing all the walls? Are we doing the adjoining buildings? All this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Even the interiors. Are we
Mm.
doing all the surfaces in the interior? So to start with, you get a scope of work which details exactly the areas and the surfaces we're painting. But
Mm.
everyone's quoting on the same photo.
Mm.
Um, the next one was specifications. Again, Very important to know what the paint specification is going to be. Do you need undercoat? Do you need sealing? Do you need a membrane? How many top coats can it have? A specification will write that out completely so everyone knows who's focusing on the job exactly what we're going to apply to the building. Who did we call to get these? We've done a little chart here which is low risk to high risk. Low risk is obviously there's not much risk in the work. High risk is there could be. We're starting off at low risk. If you just want a specification, you can call a manufacturer's rep, someone who Matthew will be able to put you onto, and Wattyl. You can call a colour consultant, or you can call your regular painter. They will all write you out a specification if it's a low risk job. Just want a refresh or a colour change, the ideal would probably be a colour consultant, or again, a reputable painter. For minor repairs, general maintenance, a bit of peeling paint here and there, bits of rust here and there, you might call a technical paint consultant or your reputable painter. If the job starts becoming a little bit more risky, you need renovations doing, etc., you might want an architect involved, a technical paint consultant, and obviously a reputable painter as well. Annual maintenance, you can use all of them, structural engineer, architect, technical paint consultant, and reputable painter. Structural repairs, as we all know at the moment with the Design Practices Act, you really got to get an engineer involved if you know you've got structural repairs. Also an architect, technical paint consultant can help, reputable paint can help with the painting side of it.
Absolutely.
Application of membranes, ideal is a structural engineer.
Yeah, correct. Because definitely a painter is there to basically, paint, but at the end of the day, the more complex it gets, you need to have the right advice. So whatever paintwork you're putting on is also providing that level of protection, right?
Exactly. So you wouldn't really want to ask a painter a technical structural issue.
No.
They'd have an opinion, but you want to get them results through a qualified professional.
Correct.
So the role of consultants, colour consultants, pretty self-explanatory, very important in strata works when you've got a lot of people to please.
Yes.
They'll advise you on colour schedules, mainly used if it's cosmetic upgrade or colour change, interior or exterior.
Yes.
But for colour renders now, a lot of paint companies and colour consultant will take a photo of your foyers or your exterior and do different colour schemes on it and send it out to you so you can see what it looks like before you start painting, which is a great way.
Yeah, try before you buy, basically.
Yeah. We always recommend use a accredited colour consultant to produce 2 different colour schemes. They usually come out to site, they talk to the committee, get an idea of what you're looking for, and they do 2 different scopes, 2 different colour schemes.
Yeah.
Basically, then we leave it in the foyers for a week, and everyone will vote on either A or B.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. Yeah.
Better answer out of doing it that way rather than having everyone involved in like that one, but that one a bit lighter.
Yeah. No, I think also it's much better to put it in somewhere public, right? And that way then they're more likely to see it and actually then, take action instead of sitting in the email.
Exactly. Paint consultants, we're using them more and more these days. A paint consultant is typically a vastly experienced painter, ex-painter, or someone who's a bit more qualified. And what they do, they get in the middle between maybe a strata manager and a painting company, and they manage the processes for you. They can write a scope of work, they can write a specification, they deal a lot with paint representatives. And they can even project manage the whole project for you. But a good thing from them, they can provide the whole package where they will write your scope, hit your specification, obtain quotes from different contractors. They will issue the administrative contract and a probate payment system. They will supply quality assurance reports throughout the project and do a finalisation report of the project. Very good if your committee's not that experienced or confident in dealing with a large project such as repainting the exterior of a large building.
And they give you your warranty, right? So if you're not happy with the work, then you've got someone to go back to.
Exactly. Yeah, we're using them now on our own job. We supply them on some of our own jobs. Just to give, if I think the committee need a bit more
guidance,
confidence and guidance, we bring them in and they keep us on their toes. They're not shy. They come in and tell you if there's a defect and this, that, the other. But they're very good because You get the proper job, and you get a written pamphlet, like a whole booklet at the end,
Mm.
explaining what's gone on, what paint's gone on, how many coats, how quick it went on. Blah, blah. Structural engineers, obviously, if you come across a repair on a building, especially nowadays, or you know you've got a large repair, get an engineer in straight away. They're very hard to get hold of at the moment, taking up to 3 months to come out sometimes. So to get the ball rolling, you might as well get an engineer in straight off and to look at the repairs that you know could be structured. They will then detail exactly what's causing them and exactly the process to repair them repairs. And they will also put you in touch with accredited builders who are on the portal as well, but design and practice and that, to carry out the works correctly. Um, how to source a reputable painting company. So, many,
Like
many
Premier
ways, obviously.
Painting, is that what you're
Yeah,
telling us?
yes. So, the best way is to do your homework. Um, you need someone who's established and fully experienced in the strata industry. What happens in times of when the market tightens up out there, a lot of painters try their hand at strata jobs. If they're not experienced in strata, you can walk into a few schoolboy mistakes. So you really need to know how strata works. You've not got one client, you've got 100 in some buildings.
Correct.
You need to be carrying out your behaviour needs to be good. Obviously all your logistics that you need to carry out properly.
Yeah.
Always check a company's got accreditation, license, ABN, insurances, testimonials are a must in strata. I think from
Yeah.
any company you get into work,
Yeah.
any references you can. Check with industry associations. In our case, it's the Master Painters, do that's accredited. You can have the Master Electricians, Master Builders. Always ring them people up and ask about them. They will know about your company that you're looking to engage, and they will give you any advice they can or any negative feedback that they can. So it's always a good way to get honest feedback.
Correct. Yeah.
Um, going on there, it's obviously licenses. They've got to have the right licenses.
Yeah.
Come up early. So brands of paint, things, shortcut to look out for. This is why you need a paint specification. If you just say we want it painted, certain painters out there will just go for the cheapest paint. Sometimes they even use the paint that they've already got in stock. They mix one brand of undercoat with one brand of top coat, and that before penny warranty for either of them. So, it's the wrong thing to do, but you need this in writing before you start to make sure that you've got it all the specification written down.
I agree. I agree.
Preparation levels, probably the most important part of painting. You need to have that explained to you in writing, in the quote before you start.
Yeah.
What you're going to do. Are you going to wash everything down? Are you going to sand these areas? Are you going to fill these size holes? Are you going to put the correct primer on, correct undercoat? All this needs to be documented, not just verbally, but in writing.
And
Build
especially,
thickness level,
yeah.
big one. To get warranty on paint, Matthew would know this, paint's got to go on a certain thickness. Now, when we do the paint consultants, when they come and manage our job, they come around and actually test the thickness of a coat of paint as you put it on to make sure it's going on at the right thickness. And a lot of the paint manufacturers can tell by the amount of paint you bought that job, how much you've used, and how many metres it's covered. They can tell whether you've shortcutted, putting it on thickness or not. So that's a good one to look at.
Yeah. You don't want to see patches, like patchy points,
No.
spots on the building, do you,
Sometimes a
Tony?
job can look good, but once the sun's been on it for 6 months and
Yes.
burnt through a bit, it soon thins out. So this is
Yes.
why
Gets
you need to get it
chalky.
right at the beginning.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
WHS shortcuts. You need to know the company you're employing are fully compliant with
Compliant.
their WHS
Yeah.
trials and errors, trial and error, what their liabilities, should I say. We got scaffolding, abseilers, EWPs, boom lifts. You need people who know what they're doing with it, make sure they're properly licensed to use them. And keeping, not only that, keeping the public safe, the owners of the occupants in the car park or whatever it is, everyone's got to be kept safe all the time. So that's important. Compliance and onboarding, basically it's a tick box exercise. Got to have license, got to have ABN, got to have public liability, got to have workers' comp, got to have HBCF, which is home builders compensation, for jobs over 20,000.
Yeah.
Safe work method statements with risk assessment implemented into them. And obviously a signed contract. The SCA do a good strata contract, which is very fair for all parties. And it's based on the expense savings. So you've selected your painter, jobs commence, how to ensure quality control. I've touched on this already. Technical paint consultants can come in. We usually get them in at 3 to 5 points during the job, beginning 2 or 3 times during the project, and one at the end to do a defects report and handover report. At the end of that, they usually hand us a folder with images and reports on every stage, first coat, second coat, with the 4 thicknesses on it, evidence of the building being washed down and undercoated correctly. So once you've got all that in your hands, the committee's got that and they've got the warranty from us, a committee can't do much more than that to make sure they're fully covered in the building. You can't do much more than having a third party oversee the painter and then document it all. So from our point of view, we do this because the committee peace of mind that they've taken on a contract
Well, I think it's a big ticket item, right? Doing external paint work, and the last thing you want to do is, in all good faith, have the building painted, and then, like you say, 6 months later, people start to complain because, so you pay for what you get. We were talking about that with other things today, and certainly if you're going to redo your paint work, it's because it's required, it's time, and typically you would do that every 10 to 15 years, wouldn't you? You don't really want to be doing it every 5 because you've gone with the cheap end, and then you've got to do it more frequently. You might as well do it properly from the onset. Yeah.
Where the cost of access scaffold, that's saying nowadays you don't want to do that.
Yeah, correct. All right, lovely. Thank you very much, Tony, for your presentation. And I think that was really insightful in terms of then, just the things that you need to be looking out for. So if someone turns up to paint your building, make sure they've got all those kinds of criteria. If they don't, then they're not the right person for you, are they?
Exactly. And I'm happy to forward any of this stuff, this presentation and individual documents that go with it. If anyone wants to email us, happy to forward them over to you.
Lovely. That's beautiful. Lovely, Tony. All right, so now we're going to cross across to Matt from Wattyl. Thank you, Tony, for that.
Thanks, Sam, and thanks, Tony. That was a really good presentation. So, yes, I'm from Wattyl. Wattyl, this is our 110th year, so we've been around for a long time in the Australian paint market, so we're very experienced at making good quality paints. So one thing I'd just like to follow on with after Tony's presentation, just to show some things we should be wary of when it comes to common issues within strata complexes. So here's one that's just cropped up recently. So you can see all the at the top there. There's a lot of dirt that's been ingrained that's come down from the balcony onto that render there. And the reason that is in there now and stained is that that render was initially unsealed. So it was an acrylic texture that was put on, but they cut corners in not putting a top coat on there, something like a membrane. So what that really means to you is that down the track, if you find you have something like this, the cost to remediate this sort of thing, it exacerbates greatly because there's a lot more labour involved in having to repair this going on. So, and with painting, generally your labour component is going to be the vast majority of what you're going to be paying for, apart from access. So it's definitely important to, when we talk about product membranes for the outside on render, that you definitely have that discussion with your painter when you're looking at engaging in this sort of work.
Good point.
And here's another one which you find a lot of, rust. One thing, and rust is obviously very common with metal, but the thing with rust is that it once you see it, you'll only see it after it's come through the coating. We can guarantee you that there'll be a lot more underneath the coating. So it's a very common issue, and what we tend to find is that if you're going to engage a painter, it's definitely worth putting on very high quality rust inhibitive products. Now, some of the products in the marketplace, can last up to 20 years on metal before having to get recoated. So it's vitally important with rust that you stay on top of it. Once it does get away, your exposure to remediation costs can be incredibly high, because there's maybe at the point of no return where the metal would actually have to get replaced. Here's a great example of some before and afters, just with changes of colour too. So if you do look at your facility, and you might want to, every 7-10 years, you're thinking that you're going to do a recoat, it might be worth perhaps just having a look at a colour change. And like this picture here, they don't have to be dramatic, because with colour tones, obviously they're tying into a lot of your windows and other bits and pieces that you have around the place, which may not be painted. So there is always an opportunity to perhaps, if you are going to engage in some painting, then you can spruik it up with a nice little colour change. So, and
of course, palettes change, don't they, over time, Matt? So, what might have been a apricot was the favourite.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're right in a process right now where we're actually seeing some new trends coming through from Europe and the States. So they're getting away from, I guess, some of the darker, more coarse tones into the more softer natural tones. So, and here's something we're finding too quite common, is that sometimes you may have the ability to enhance the building you're in. So you can look at something left field, like putting in a mural, and these are becoming quite common, we've noticed, in new apartments that are being specified in city locations. So, sometimes you always just think we're just going to put a bit of paint on it, but sometimes just explore the opportunity of perhaps putting a mural on, or doing something, just a little bit different. So,
public art, correct.
Absolutely. This is just going on just with some of our products. This is our market-leading product in Australia, the largest selling exterior paint in Australia. So Soligard offers is an industry leader. So when you are engaging a painter, it's always important just to ask the quality of the products you're putting on. We can't stress that enough, because again, the cost of the paint is quite incidental compared to the application costs. So if you're going to engage someone, just make sure they're using a high quality product, because it costs them very little extra to be able to use a really good quality product when you know that there's going to be a paint manufacturer who's providing you with a nice long warranty period on it. That's our ID. Just like unlike Soligard, this is an interior product. If you're looking at painting some interiors, the difference with our Wattyl ID is that it's an anti-mold and antimicrobial paint coating. So if you've got, if any of you are prone to asthma or have breathing issues and that sort of thing, these sort of paints are incredibly low in VOCs. And with the ID, it's actually antimicrobial. So this is actually a hospital grade paint. So you can ask the question with your painter, what sort of paint are you putting on? You don't necessarily just want something that is going to look nice and be washable. There are other merits in the paint, like anti-mold and antimicrobial. So they have become quite advanced over the years. And this is the one I really want to talk about the most. And Anthony did touch on this just before. It's the use of what we call a membrane coating. So on the exterior of your building with your concrete and render, it's imperative to use a product like a membrane. The membrane is a waterproof, highly flexible rubberized coating. So what that'll do is give you far longevity in terms of the retention of the colour, but more importantly too, that it's water repellent. So you won't have the issues with water ingression and that sort of thing on your property. So and again, it only costs the cost is no different to a painter to use a membrane. There's just slightly that they just take a little bit more time to put it on, But for when you look at the economics, it's definitely worth using a membrane as opposed to just a normal exterior grade paint.
I agree, especially if you're on the coast.
Definitely. So, and
Now,
that is it. Thank
you've
you
got
so
a little
much.
video here because obviously Hempel is obviously celebrating 75 years and you've
Every
been
day,
involved.
the Hempel Foundation supports
Absolutely.
philanthropic work around the globe.
I wish you could see.
I wish you could see. Philanthropic work that has enabled hundreds of thousands of the world's poorest children to receive quality education. That contributes to sustaining our planet's biodiversity. That invests in science for a more sustainable future.
I wish you could see the difference we are making together.
Thank you, Sam.
What a lovely way to finish, Matt.
Hempel are our parent owners. We're a non-for-profit organisation, and vast majority of our profits go through to the Hempel Foundation to fund various charities around the world. So just remember, next time, if you're contemplating the use of Wattyl, understand where the money is going and for the purpose that it is. It really means a lot to us.
It does, and it's always nice to see a corporate, with a social conscience.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Matt and Anthony, for sharing with us about your painting tips. And you know how much I'm a fan of a membrane in a paint product, Matt.
Absolutely,
that might make me slightly a paint nerd, but I'm okay with that.
Absolutely.
All right, we've now got
Thank
the
you very
last
much.